So I decided to check out the first two episodes of that new animated series on Disney Plus from Marvel Animation called Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Now, this apparently is part of the MCU, but it's a variant alternate timeline. It's a separate story, it's a different Spider-Man story. And originally I wasn't going to check it out, but I've decided to give it a shot and see what I think. The first two episodes are up on Disney Plus. There have been a lot of Spider-Man animated shows throughout history. This is the latest one. Now, the first thing I will tell you is that this this like sort of alternate timeline or alternate variant still has a lot of similarities to what we saw in the MCU. It still has a ton of similarities. For example, Aunt May is younger in this one. She's not like the lovable old lady from like the older 90s Spider-Man show or the Sam Raimi films. She's more like a Marissa Tomei type. Uncle Ben is mentioned though, which was not the case in the MCU Spider-Man film. Also, there are a couple of scenes that I think were either heavily inspired or straight up borrowed from Civil War. When the show opens up in the first episode, it says Queens, and it's the same exact font as Civil War. And there's a scene that's sort of like borrowed from Civil War. I'm going to take it more as a tribute than anything. Now, the reason why I mean, first of all, the first episode was okay. It was all right. The second one I liked a bit more. Now, I'm going to be sticking around and watching this show because I heard it's not that many episodes. And apparently Charlie Cox is going to be voicing Daredevil at some point later on. So I do look forward to that. So Hudson Thames voices Spider-Man in this one. They're putting him back in high school again, which I was kind of hoping they wouldn't do that. This show does kind of seem like it's being targeted at modern young people, not so much longtime Spider-Man fans, which I don't have a problem with. It's just that's how it is. Besides that, you've got Koiman Domingo voicing Norman Osborn. So we've already got Norman Osborn coming in the early episodes. And it looks like he's going to be one of those sort of complicated figures like in some of the other Spider-Man portrayals where I don't know if he's going to go all the way to becoming Green Goblin, but I do think that, again, I really don't know, but I do think that he's going to be not really as positive a role model as others, like Tony Stark was in the MCU, for example. Now, the first thing I want to note is the animation style. It's got sort of a hybrid style. Some folks don't like the art style. Some just don't like it. Some are okay with it. It sort of looks like Archer, like that Archer style, mixed with Spider-Verse, although not as polished as Spider-Verse is. There's parts of the episode where things become comic book panels, and it progresses like that. There's other parts that use like comic book sort of cloud effects. So they try to be artistic, but I wouldn't expect it to be on the same level as Spider-Verse. It's got that 3D cell shading animation, and it really does sort of pop out like a comic book, and that's what they were going for. It's got, a mix of like CG and sort of a classic look to it. Again, it's very artistic in that sense. Now, I have heard different varying things about the show. People have told me that later on, some of the characters get race swapped and gender swapped, and I've heard stuff like that. Then I heard apparently the guy who voices Spider-Man, Hudson, said that the show's not woke. So again, it's a little confusing. I guess what I'm going to do is just judge for myself because that's the best thing I can do. I'm not going to listen to the internet noise that's constantly pushing this damn culture war. Like, I did videos about this. I'm so tired of the culture war. I just want to be entertained. This was okay. I'm not going to say it was great. It wasn't brilliant. I liked episode 2 more than episode 1. It didn't really capture me as far as like, oh my God, this is amazing. But when I was watching it, I really wasn't, bored. It sort of just came and went. It really didn't offend me as far as it being a second-rate product, but it didn't hit me like X-Men 97. So when it comes to whether or not I'm going to give a like positive or negative review on this show, right now it's only been 2 episodes, but this is one of those things where it depends on what your schedule is. If you're really busy right now with other shows and other projects, like for example, I'm trying to catch up on episodes of Daredevil that I haven't seen in 10 years. And I'm going to be doing a review on that, I think, this Sunday here on the channel. At season 1 anyways. And maybe it's not the right time, and maybe wait for it all to come out and binge it, or maybe try the first couple of episodes and see if you like it. Like if you're really busy, but if you have some free time, it's pretty kid friendly. There's nothing here that's really truly adult, I would say, or super edgy. It's kind of like the Spider-Verse. It's kind of this very similar vibe to it. I don't know if it's ever going to actually matter in the grand scheme of the MCU. It is a variant timeline. And as I mentioned, Charlie Cox and apparently Vincent D'Onofrio will be voicing Kingpin. So at least they got the people who are in the live action to come back and do that for this show. So that should be a treat. With that being said, though, the Daredevil show is dark and Born Again is dark. It's funny how this show is such a vibrant, laid back, lighthearted adventure. Meanwhile, the Daredevil show is just straight up dark. Just a straight up dark story. Some of the interesting choices they went with here, it looks like the love interest is not going to be Mary Jane or some type of variant of Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy. They're going with Pearl Pangan as the love interest, which is unexpected. And Harry Osborn is already in the show. So, of course, he'll be Peter's friend, I'm sure, like he usually has been in other portrayals. Also, they didn't show the entire origin. They showed him getting bit by the spider, but then there was a time skip to where he already has his powers. And that is something I appreciate because, that story's been told so many times about how he got his powers. You really don't have to show him, discovering that he can stick to walls or flexing in a mirror. We've seen that in the Sam Raimi movie. We saw it in some of the other Spider-Man cartoons. It's nothing that I think just showing the spider bite and then skipping to him having powers, I feel like that's enough even for newer fans. Even if somebody's never watched a Spider-Man product before, they should be able to pick up on the context clues and the simplicity of that. Also, I was surprised that the very first episode showed Doctor Strange and a symbiote, and that was totally unexpected. And again, I'm wondering if that's supposed to tie into like What If or something like that, because there was no mention of Doctor Strange or the symbiote again after that. So I thought that was very out of left field, but definitely eye-catching. Definitely eye-catching. In the second episode, he has a fight with this arsonist whom I don't even know from the comic books. I don't know if maybe he was a comic book character. If so, I've never seen him before. And so he has to deal with, it's almost like Pyro, except not, And it's interesting that already in episode 2, Norman Osborn has figured out that he's Spider-Man. So the story is moving by quickly. Let's see, because right now I don't think I'm going to drop it. I might in the future and come back to it, but initially, like I said, it's okay. Nothing you have to see. It's no rush that you have to drop everything to go see it. There have been times where I've said, go out of your way to see this. But this, not yet. At least not yet. I know that, Tony Stark and Dr. Octopus will be appearing in later episodes. And so will Chameleon. There will be more villains appearing. I just hope that they're utilized and written well. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. See you guys tomorrow for the Royal Rumble review. And then Sunday for probably my Daredevil review. See you then. Take care.